Hello! For your information, I will briefly cover Blizzard's sexual misconduct lawsuit in this video. Not in detail, but still a little bit. Warcraft Reforged was originally announced at BlizzCon 2018 as a remaster and upgrade of Warcraft 3. Also announced that year was Diablo Immortal, a mobile game in a series that thrived on the complexity that a PC interface provided. After more than half a decade of waiting, Diablo fans were rewarded with a game that decisively stepped away from what they loved about the series. Now, I don't think it's impossible to make a mobile Diablo game as a sort of spin-off, but psyching the fans up for a full new entry into the series, then to announce this is just mean. On its own, this was merely a failure to read the room and connect with the fanbase, but the question of why was more the cause for concern. It appeared that the game was motivated for the purpose of capturing a more lucrative market. Money had become the driving force. Passion was already feeling quite limited. This was all but confirmed when Immortal finally did come out and was a predatory microtransaction-ridden disgrace. More so than anything else, Diablo Immortal was when a lot of us noticed that late-stage capitalism was really taking root in Blizzard, although maybe not in so many words. There were signs before this, arguably as far back as Reign of Chaos's time, but this is the moment when the general mood started shifting. If anyone thought this was just a fluke, the years following have so thoroughly removed any doubt. Events such as persecuting one of their pro players for shouting out the Hong Kong protests, withdrawing support for one of their games with virtually no warning to either pro players or developers, and mass layoffs despite record profits. These are not the actions of a company that cares about their workers, their products, or their customers. And yet, that isn't the end of it. They earned themselves a California lawsuit relating to sexual misconduct. The charges concerning treatment of female employees included disruptive behavior, lower wages, and denied promotions and opportunities for career development. The treatment was even worse for pregnant and breastfeeding women and women of color. It continues to detail more explicit sexual harassment as well, such as inappropriate comments, unwanted advances and contact, and sharing of private photos. This reached such a level that one person would take her own life. Complaints had been filed but were never satisfactorily addressed, if they were addressed at all. Worse, it was eventually revealed that this, allegedly, went all the way to the CEO, Bobby Kotick. He had been told about a specific employee's rape and covered it up, even from the state investigation. In another instance, he threatened to have his assistant killed. He's a bully and a brute, and yet somehow he still has his job. That is but a brief taste of the kind of assholes who own the game now. I think it is important to remember that while we might feel the effects of the company's practices as consumers, we have it easy compared to the workers. But with that being said, the game itself was not spared. In fact, the Frozen Throne was not spared. Reforged literally replaces its client on your PC. Apparently this was their way of ensuring the cross-compatibility between Reforged and the Frozen Throne that they promised. That is quite the loose and shady interpretation of a promise, I must say. The consequences are that the game now takes up almost 10 times as much disk space, and the issues we shall soon cover cannot be easily avoided by just playing the old version. While we're on broken promises though, another was an overhauled campaign with more movie-like cinematics. Did we get that? Nope. They're pretty much the same as before. In fact, scratch that. There's less attention to detail than there was before. Like here, in the original, this grunt overheard these two talking shit about the orcs and cut in, but in Reforged, he's just walking straight into the conversation before he knows what they're talking about. There's evidence that these plans for an upgraded campaign were genuine at first, but the funding and time the developers needed was cut, leaving us with this sorry recreation. Let's dig the grave deeper now. The game shipped without many standard features found in the original. No custom campaigns, no ladder or matchmaking, no clans or profiles. Not even an offline melee game on release. A smaller feature lost, but one that is important to me are the portraits that originally captivated me just by watching the game before I had ever played it. They have been replaced with dead-eyed stiff zombies, presumably to add the really shitty lip sync to the game. But if there's one thing that boils my blood, it would be the EULA change, granting Blizzard full legal and moral rights to all custom content and leaving its creators with nothing. This is bad not only because it's financially exploitative, which it absolutely is, but it also often comes at the cost of people's mental well-being. It's obviously quite a blow to have no control over your own creation. If you are still not convinced it's shit, the new models, while good to look at up close, lack clarity from the isometric perspective. That's aside from how mechanical their movements look. The selection boxes don't line up quite right either. Sometimes it's bizarrely difficult just to click on things. And if even now, you still need an extra kick, the game was just buggy as shit on release. Blizzard seems to have largely abandoned the game now. They recently released patch 1.33.0, but most of the work was likely done a while ago. This patch finally added a ladder, but, well, we don't really care. I'll explain why in a minute. Now, what am I actually doing with this video? Going over what's wrong with Blizzard and Reforged, yes, but there are plenty of videos out there that do this in more detail and with better presentation than this one. Originally, I was going to scrutinize the gameplay and campaign changes meticulously, but the takeaway is simple. The original did pretty much everything better. Almost everything that is good about Reforged is just what it didn't change. I also don't really want to give Reforged that much attention on those fronts. It's not worth it. It fails on more fundamental levels, and an analysis of the nitty-gritty isn't worth the time. So again, what am I doing? I suppose what I wanted was to raise a mug to the community of the game, and help anybody watching get some of the old experience of Warcraft 3 back. I've largely focused on campaigns in the previous videos. If that's what you're most interested in and you don't want to go online, then you're in luck. You can actually get the old Frozen Throne client back. Following the linked source below, you can download several previous versions of it, including some that are more recent and some very old ones if you're so inclined. These are not torrents and you will still require your CD keys to play them. But given that you're not going online, you can just share one among a friend group and it won't matter. Legally, I'm not sure you're supposed to, but you know, you can. Now, Battle.net still might try and override this client, but I found you can get away from that by putting it in a non-standard folder, like War 3 Old or something. If anyone still has issues, I'll do more experimentation and come up with more precise steps to follow. All is lovely for players like that, but what if you do want to go online? What are your options then? That is where this story really does take a marvelous turn. This is the Hive Workshop. Here you can upload and download Warcraft 3 maps, custom games, and tools to your heart's content. They are half of what kept the game alive during its dark days after StarCraft 2 was released, and to this day do a beautiful job offering new content from a passionate and driven community. This is Back to Warcraft, the other half of what kept it alive. For the better part of a decade now, they have been casting replays and live games on Twitch, making them very accessible in an engaging and inclusive atmosphere for all to enjoy the pro scene together. They are a fantastic place to learn meta strategies and lately have begun running tournaments themselves, both for the high-level players and also for us mere mortals. I got to play against a pro in one of these once. He beat me in like 6 minutes or something. I'll also shout out the Asian community for this game, based in South Korea and especially China. For thanks to them, Warcraft 3 never really had the same dark days in the East that were seen in the West. When it was pulled out of WCG, they kept it alive with a number of other tournaments, most notably GCS, which later became WGL. This is W3 Champions, a community project to build a ladder for Reforged, which was complete within days of its announcement. Afterwards, it continued to become more sophisticated with time, reintroducing other lost features like clans and chat rooms. They also have ladders for many different types of game modes now, like Random Hero and Legion TD. And if that's not enough, they've added several entirely new in-game features, like the ability to set and reset zoom, a counter for how many workers are in a mine, and an indicator to show when a unit is denied. Oh, and let us not forget that it comes with a beautiful hotkey assignment interface. Best thing about it is its flowbots, W3 Champions' own servers that can do magical things with ping. You can play with people on the other side of the world without much trouble at all. To summarize, not only did they bring back the ladder, but they made it better than it had ever been before by a huge margin. Blizzard's new ladder is easier to find, and hopefully that will hook new players long enough that they end up learning about the user-made ladder themselves. But after it is discovered, there's not a lot of reason to use the included ladder anymore. If you're playing online, W3 Champions is the place to be. This is the Quenching Mod, which allows you to customize your graphical experience playing the game, including many optional changes to make Reforged mode more readable or more aesthetic, ideally both. Custom skins for many units are also included, which can be set at will. In addition, it covered the one missing feature W3 Champions could not. It brought back custom campaigns. This is W3 Booster, a simple mod which provides additional information about the current game being played for people viewing, intended for streamers, naturally. As a viewer, it allows you to keep much better track of the player's position in the game, and provides those lovely intense moments where you scream, "Please, just research Ultravision!" And this is Warcraft 3 Re-Reforged, an incredible attempt to actually make the new vision of the campaign that Blizzard promised all those years ago. Every map is made with so much love and attention, both visually and in terms of playability. It employs an absolute goldmine of ideas to spice up the experience, from new models to objectives to even varying map bounds. I won't be going into detail here. If I keep making videos, and once it's finished, or closer to, I might come back to it. But for now, suffice to say, the campaign is very good, and well worth your time. Together, we see why I describe all this as marvelous. Everything that was promised back in 2018 and everything lost in 2020 has been recovered, or at least is well on its way there, and with a steady stream of improvements on top of that. The game is still thriving on passion and love. It's just not coming from a studio anymore. The only caveat is if you don't already own the game, then you have to give money to Blizzard in some way to be involved. You might not consider that worth it. I'm not sure myself, even though I love the game. We also sadly can't just wipe away the EULA problem, but there is at least a good culture of recognition. You can feel confident that enough people will stand by you for what you have created. Something beautiful really did come out of this fiasco in a weird way, and it wasn't the promise of profit that did it. Neither was that the reason the original trilogy and their expansions landed so well. Back then, there was plenty of profitable shortcuts the developers could have taken, but didn't. You do need money to survive in our modern world, sadly, but if there's a lesson to be learned from this whole ordeal, it's that money is not what drives greatness. You just have to love stuff, and want to share it.